Now, there was an important rally for teachers and other education department employees in Brisbane today against the Queensland Government's vindictive decision against staff who did not comply with their directive to be vaccinated. The protest was organised by the People's Revolution in conjunction with Teachers Professional Association of Queensland, TPAQ, and affected teachers. Our guest is Tracy Tully, State Secretary for the Teachers Professional Association of Queensland. Tracy was at the rally today. Welcome to TNT Radio, Tracy.
Thank you very much, Jeremy, and it's a pleasure to be here. Thank you for having me.
Great. Now, about the protest today, how many were there?
Well, we think up to about 1,000, which is pretty good for a work day, we felt. So we were thrilled with the turn up and the breadth of the people that were there. So lots and lots of different people attending from various jobs, all in support of our teachers. So we thank the People's Revolution for helping support us there at Parliament House.
I think 1,000's a pretty good number, really, because at the end of the day, the mainstream media won't be advertising it, and to get the word of mouth out there for turnouts. And there is a bit of a fatigue, I notice, right now, and amongst people. It doesn't mean that we haven't changed our views. Many people have turned up to many protests over the last couple of years or so, but getting 1,000's a pretty good number. So who out there are supporting these workers?
Well, at the Red Union, we have 8 different unions. So we've got drivers, that's pilots, that's tram drivers, truck drivers, bus drivers, Uber drivers, taxi drivers. We have medical personnel, so doctors, we have nurses, we have the teachers, we have all trades as well. So we've got quite a lot of different unions, and that was certainly evident in the crowd there, people from all different trades and jobs, which was wonderful.
Mm-hmm. And that's great to get support, but I guess you will also have the other element. Some won't be too happy. Is there anyone not supporting them?
Oh, look, I think, as with everything, everyone has a right to their opinion, which is pretty good, we think. Obviously, the Labor Party isn't supporting them, and this is a big issue here in Queensland. A lot of people don't realise what actually is happening. So for us, that the Labor Party is trying to dictate what is happening to our members, and therefore they're trying to block everything. So they're trying to block us from supporting them, which is a massive issue because they're running their own agenda, and it's not the agenda of the people. And there's a dangerous slippery slope here. So we've seen the Labor government slide backwards in the last year and a half at an alarming rate from basically socialism heading into communism. They're banning and stopping everything, absolutely everything they can to please themselves, to do whatever they want.
I think it's a disgrace what the Labor Party is doing. I think the old Labor leaders would be rolling in their graves. You had some Labor leaders of yesteryear who fought for decent conditions for workers and a fair go. People like Ben Chifley, who was a train driver and managed to end up being a Prime Minister. That was the old Labor style of politician. Today, they're just too removed from the everyday life, and what they're doing is just going against human rights. It's a disgrace. Now, I know that the mainstream media generally don't want to cover these sorts of events because they're part of the globalist elite, but have you had any interest at all from the mainstream media?
No, obviously not for the rally. We've had a lot of great interest from the mainstream media, and I applaud them for our situation, but definitely not at the rally today. And that was expected. We didn't expect anything else. But it's interesting, Jeremy, what you were saying about the old school Labor. They would be rolling over in their grave, actually. And we were talking about that this morning, that the whole reason that unions were set up in the first place was to stop exactly this, what is happening now. And what they've done is basically they've really changed to run their own agenda to suit themselves. And we've lost what it was all about. So it's not about the members and the employees at all. It's about whatever the bureaucrats want. And that's the dangerous, slippery path.
Very much so. And have you had any reaction from the Queensland government?
Yes. Well, they want to change the industrial relations, Act with an amendment bill, and they were supposed to be debating and voting on that at their sitting this week. I think they got scared off. I think the minister, from what I have been told, jumped in an aeroplane and flew as far as she could to the other side of to the top end of Queensland to get away, and has moved the date now and forward to another 2 weeks. So what they're doing is manipulating once again and trying to avoid the discussion, and they're just not going to be able to avoid it, because we're not going away and the people aren't going away. We're not going to be treated like this. And the bottom line is the rest of the population need to hear what is happening here and what they're doing, because a lot of people wouldn't know. There's so much silence now. They've cloaked everything. They've shut down everything effectively. Even in schools, you can't see results. They don't share anything because all it does is show up their poor results. So we've got huge problems there, and they are trying to ban us.
Yeah, it's disgraceful how you've been treated. And look, these bureaucrats and these government officials and elected representatives, they're meant to represent the people. Are they going to get the message?
Well, we have had some great support by some politicians, which is very good. Whether they're brave enough to vote for the right thing or not will be the interesting part for us, because we know that the fear-mongering is definitely strong. We all know what that is like. We know how far the reach is and how vicious they are. And this incident that we're representing today with the teachers' letters, this is a classic example of the toxic culture in the Department of Education. And all it is, that letter was just pure vengeance. That's all it was. Nasty vengeance. And one of the head of HR, David Miller, said to a citizen a couple of days ago on the telephone who rang us with their concerns, said to that citizen that they could have gone to jail. Now, who in their right mind would say something like that to a senior citizen when they've rung up the Department of Education, they rang up Grace's office, the Minister's office, with their concerns about what was happening to their children and grandchildren in schools, and that's what they're met with, this really irresponsible, nasty, mean-spirited comment, they could have gone to jail, when it wasn't criminal. There was nothing criminal about the decision they made. So that's a huge problem.
It is a disgrace. So how do you stop this decision?
Yeah, great question, Jeremy. The thing with I've found out in the years that I've been pushing back against the Labor Party and their deplorable decision-making and corruption, huge corruption, is you just have to keep being heard. So being out front and centre. Just before the last elections, a lot of pressure was being applied to the Premier, Anna Palaszczuk, about the Public Service Act. Now, the Public Service Act allows for a lot of corrupt activity within the investigation system in public service. So we have there classic examples of disgraceful behaviours. So I'll give you a great one. We've got David Miller, who's the Director of Human Resources. Previously, he was the Executive Director of the Integrity Unit, no less. And he himself conducted really, really poor, very, very poor, very serious misconduct against a couple of women. Now, we've signed the Discrimination Act, but he was pardoned. All those claims against him, the allegations, were actually substantiated by the CCC. And yet Oh boy, he must know someone really well. It was just brushed aside and he was promoted and now given this job. So he's head of COVID compliance, head of HR, and he's saying these nasty, vicious things to the general public. So we've got no hope, have we? If we can't even have the head of the integrity unit doing the right thing, and then what they're doing is they're punishing the teachers, I don't think Mr. Miller has much trust with anyone.
Well, there's not much integrity in the government and bureaucrats. Do you have any other announcements?
Yes, we do. And it's great, Jeremy, that I can say it here with you today. So yesterday we've been collecting a lot of evidence from members with their letters. So we've been doing that ever since the letters came out. And the problem with the letters is that they're incorrect. They're appallingly incorrect. So no one should be sending a punishment letter out, especially at this level, to employees unless they've got the ability to do and say the right thing. Now, what they've done is they've put incorrect information on those letters to members, so they're actually not receiving their letters, they're actually receiving someone else's. Now, this is what happened during COVID, exactly the same thing. The Queensland Department of Education was highly negligent with under the Privacy Act and breached the Privacy Act every single day with doing the same thing. And they still haven't learnt their lesson and they're still doing it again. The next part that concerns all of us is that the author, Anne Crowley, made a fatal mistake. Whether she wrote the letter or not, I don't know. I bet she's hoping she didn't, because this has gone viral all over the world. Her letter would have to be the world's worst letter. So what she's done is she's made a dreadful comment saying that she has carefully considered every single person's circumstance. Well, we know she hasn't because she hasn't been able to respond to them. She hasn't answered any of their questions, and the people aren't receiving the right information on their letters. So she's very negligent there. She's breached many levels of communication to people, and not only that, threatening them with all sorts of things, and having the audacity to say that it was quite all right to do what she's doing. So it was unnecessary fear-mongering.
We have about 30 seconds left. Yeah. Can you just briefly state a summary, or if you've got anything else planned?
Yes, so we look forward to taking legal action against the Queensland Department of Education, and we have been able to tell you today that we have had 2 highly successful wins there with regards to COVID. Thanks, Jeremy.
Oh, thanks very much, Tracy, for coming on to TNT Radio. I'm Jeremy Beck, filling in for Mike Ryan, and we're coming up to the news.